Hi folks, welcome to this week's Hang. This week I had the pleasure of finally sitting down with my show buddy, Jared Grimes. I am blown away by the hour I got to spend with him. And it's amazing because we are on a show every night, but just to sit and hang with him and get his thoughts on things, it was very insightful. He's a prolific artist, and I think you're gonna evolve after having spent this hour as much as I have with Jared. I hope you enjoy.
You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Jared, welcome to the Hang, brother.
Oh, in it.
How are you, man?
Win it.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man, for sure.
We were already starting talking off camera about we're both a year pretty much into this run now, and we were just talking about vacation because at the timing of this filming, I got a terrible foot problem happening, so that means I'll be out for a week now because of my concerts in Arizona and Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, nice.
A little concerned about flying out now. I'm like, this better
it won't flare up on the
well, I'm just I'm hoping this like in the next 24 hours I'd be like, oh, okay, it's alleviated. But it's the last 24 hours I thought the same, and it's gotten worse.
Yeah. Well, you got it injected, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
Do you know with what it was?
Plasma, my own blood.
Oh,
so
plasma,
they take your blood out, separate your plasma, and then put the plasma back in.
That is crazy.
And she gave me extra.
Are you like alive and like looking at that as that's happening, or?
I ain't looking at it. I ain't looking at it. I'm going to stare over here. So we were saying how, we've got some miles on us, which we absolutely do. And you were saying you've not taken your vacation.
I have not taken it. I'm not really like, I'm not a travel bug or anything like that.
Oh, really?
So like most likely if I took a vacation, it'd either be for work or just to sit around and watch basketball for,
really?
for a week. So
you don't get like the urge to like, I want to go somewhere warm, somewhere cold, somewhere.
Nah, I've been a homebody ever since I was a little kid, man. I'm an only child too, so it might have something to do with that. Like, I feel like when you're an only child, you kind of create your own fantasies, your own imagination, your own escapes, your own getaway in your head. Mm-hmm. So, for some reason, I just never been like, oh man, let's go to Tijuana, or let me go here, or let me go there. Like for work, I've been everywhere for that stuff, and I'm usually the person that stays in the hotel.
Really?
The whole time. I'll get there, gig, hotel.
Because you're not the type to go out. You're not into clubs and bars.
I love museums though. So it depends on like who you're with too. Yeah. So most of the time that I've been on the road, it's been with, older jazz musicians who, they ain't got time for, the craziness or whatever like that. So it's different if I'm out there with the homies and everything like that. But most of my life being on the road and touring and doing gigs around the world have been with, guys that I've looked up to and, read about in books before I started, performing with them. So
what is it about museums?
Man, I'm a big history bug. I love history. I love culture.
You love culture, but you're not going to travel to it.
No, it's funny. I love studying about it.
Yeah.
I love researching it. I love watching documentaries on it. But, it's one of those things. I think I'm just lazy when it comes to traveling. Like if I could teleport and be right there, like, you know what I mean? It'd be one thing, but just the journey to get there, I think was daunting for me. But history, before entertainment and everything like that, I was dead set on being like an anthropologist. I love dinosaurs, so a paleontologist or, archaeologist, all that kind of stuff. I was just big into, the world that existed before, we were, ever around and stuff like that. And, that's why history is one of my biggest passions. So, museums are like the closest thing you can get to that when you do travel. So if I did go somewhere, it might not be a club, and I'm just like, where's the closest museum?
Nice.
And I go there by myself, and I'm that person at the museum that will read everything.
Good. Well, that's what it's there for.
I don't scan it. I don't look at the pictures. I don't just, gloss over everything. Like I'll read everything.
That's inspiring.
Be in the museum for like 4 hours.
So for a newbie like me, I say newbie, but I've not experienced New York properly because we're here for work. And like yourself, like once you're in a 8-show run, and sometimes by like 3/4 of the show, I'm already thinking of my pillow.
Yeah.
My
TV.
bed. Yeah.
Relaxing.
What's the first museum I should check out here?
Oh, definitely the Met.
The Met.
Definitely the Met, yeah. then Natural, History Museum.
So if I go to the Met, I've walked by there and I see the queues to get in.
Oh man,
is there VIP passes we can buy? Like I'm not expecting VIP treatment. I just don't want to line up.
There's got to be like an artist pass or something like that, an entertainment pass. There's got to be.
I don't.
They're always
like I said,
for people to perform there too. So if they know that you're an artist or a performer, I'm pretty sure that there's a
list. They did ask me to perform there once.
You know what I'm saying?
But like I don't want red carpet, none of that stuff.
No.
And not that I deserve it. I will pay my way. I just don't want to line up. I don't want to wait around. I just want
to go early in the morning. Early in the morning might be your best.
Like
bet.
the fast pass at Disneyland.
Yeah, I know, right?
I want something like that.
I don't even know because like usually when you go early in the morning, that's when all the elementary school kids, like all the schools are there too. So it might be like a lose-lose situation. And if you go on like vacation,
I'll go an hour before it shuts.
Yeah,
here we go, quick.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like got to be the day where like nobody wants to like actually go to the museum. Which I have no idea
what's one that maybe most people don't think about seeing?
Guggenheim.
Do you know what I was going to say to Guggenheim?
I think because when I first got to New York, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
And I like literally
it's a great building too.
And everybody's like, "Yo!" When I got here, they were like Guggenheim. I was like, "Oh, I've never heard of that." And I went there and I was just like you said, it's a great building, great atmosphere. One of those places that you walk into when you feel like you're artistically gaining something, and then when you leave, you feel like you've evolved in some way, shape, or form. So I think the Guggenheim for me would be that kind of dark horse museum, even though everybody loves it. But it's the one that for some reason you don't hear about as much.
Yeah, I like that. You feel like you've evolved.
Yeah. I'm big on that, man. I'm big on
what a great way to look at things. Like even like things you watch on TV or what your intake on social media or whatever you let your eyes and give your time to. Does it evolve you?
Yeah, that's how you really gain something from time spent on anything, I feel like. So I try to, even with people and stuff like that, I try to make sure I stick around people who, are constantly teaching me things or constantly showing me things that, I didn't know. Even if they don't know they're doing it in the moment, it's just, if you can always gain knowledge from those around you or just the things around you, I feel like, you're better off, moving forward in that way as opposed to moving backwards in your own solitude.
Yeah. So. It's always about moving forward.
Yeah, man. And always, it's not cliche anymore, but I always tell people that, like the story, because I told you I was like big on animals and stuff like that before I got into the arts and stuff like that. And the one thing that I used to love about sharks is that in order for a shark to breathe, pump oxygen through its gills, it had to be moving forward. So sharks, even when they sleep, they're always maintaining a forward, motion through the water. If they're standing still, they're not pumping oxygen through their gills, or if they're going backwards, you know what that is. They're not breathing, period. Right. So the shark is always advancing. And
so you've just given me a slight bit of like respect for sharks, because up until now I'm like, why do we need them? They're scary. They're gorgeous to look at, but my God.
They represent, for me, they represent something that like is,
I love that.
I live by. It's just, and I always say steady moving like a shark. I always tell people that, I'm like, steady moving like a shark. People are like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, you know how a shark breathes. And they're just like, okay, I would have never pinned you for somebody that's interested in,
So young Jared, who's into like animals, into dinosaurs and all that. Yeah. Paleontology, right?
Yeah.
Where does the shift to arts come? Where does the shift to become not just a tapper or a hoofer, a virtuoso? Because you're not, when people are like, oh my God, that guy's a great tapper or a great hoofer, I'm like, no, he's a virtuoso. This is not normal what he's doing.
Thank you so much. What's funny is I didn't know. Well, my mom was a dancer when I was younger.
North Carolina,
I always
right?
wanted to be like her. Yeah, I grew up in. I was born in Jamaica, Queens, but I grew up in North Carolina. I moved to North Carolina when I was 6. But my mom was like, she was damn near Janet Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like she was.
Wow.
She's still a dancer to this day too. And so I knew the arts were going to be a big part of my life. But I think around high school, man, I started looking in those career books and they would tell you how much, a certain profession made, financially, like in a year and stuff like that. And I was looking at some of the things and I was like, man, an archaeologist does not make a lot of money at all. It's like, that is truly like a passion. It's like, and the extent of what you would do as an archaeologist is not what you see in the movies like Indiana Jones or something like that. Usually they're teachers. And, to get to the point of getting, funding to go out and excavate and do all the crazy things that you see on like National Geographic or Discovery Channel, like that's like one of every 100 archaeologists that can actually kind of raise the funding for that. And I was like, wow, I thought it was way easier than that. I thought it was just a matter of getting a bunch of people that were passionate about the same thing and going out to,
there's dinosaurs everywhere to be found.
Yeah, like going out and digging up bones and selling them to museums and, all that crazy stuff. So it wasn't that easy. So when I kind of saw that it wasn't that easy, I kind of made a shift. I was like, all right, well.
I want the security of being a performer.
Yeah, which when you looked in the career book too, under that, that made even like less money was like the average like entertainer. And I'm super competitive too, man. So when I saw that, being an entertainer literally was at the bottom of the list. Like, if you worked in sanitation, you were making more than, what would be perceived as an actor or a dancer or a performer. And so I was just like, all right, cool. The statistic in this career book says that, literally 1 out of every, 5,000, 1,000, whatever like that, something crazy like that, is successful at being an entertainer or being an artist. And I remember in that moment looking at that book and I was just like, I wonder if I could be that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, even that's just my mentality. I've always been like the short kid in my class. I got cut from the basketball team twice in middle school, and that was like devastating because I practiced so hard. First year, I'll give it to you. Second year, I was like one of the best people in the gym, but that was like one of my first experiences with, not getting a callback or getting cut from something that you actually deserved.
Right.
And so that's when I was like, oh, wow, it actually doesn't matter how talented you are sometimes or how hard you work. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just right time, right place.
Did they say why they cut you the second year?
The second year, they said they brought all the guys back. And the 2 or 3 new guys that they did bring in were, 6'2", 6'3" at the time in middle school, which not that many people were.
But if you're sinking the hoops.
Oh, man, I was like in middle school, I was probably like 5'6", 5'5". So I was definitely, the guard position was already filled. But when I got to high school, my freshman year, I worked even harder and I made varsity. Wow. My freshman year. So I was just like, all right, hard work and not giving up does kind of pay off. So, I'm looking in the career books in high school too. And I'm like, all right, can I be one of, can I be that guy to get turned down 2 times and be embarrassed in front of your family with, coming home with your family thinking you were probably going to make it? Because, you were a big deal in basketball at that time in town, and you still didn't make it. So I was like, all right, well, I didn't give up, and I made varsity when I got to, my freshman year of high school, which is unheard of, in my town, because everybody on varsity is almost 7 foot, and they're, like, literally going to these D1 schools and everything like that after their, high school collegiate basketball career. So it's just like, or high school basketball career and going into the collegiate basketball space. So I was just like, all right, cool. Like, I pulled that off as a freshman. You know what I mean? I feel like I got this dance thing down packed to a certain level. So it's like, could I pull off the entertainment aspect? Can I pull off the acting aspect? I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. So, my mom sat me down, my dad sat me down. They were like, all right, cool. We're going to school for basketball, or we moving to New York or LA for, entertainment. And I was like, all right. I was like, I was 5'6", 5'5" in middle school, and I grew only 2 inches in high school. And my friends kept growing. So I was just like, all right, well, not that, I wouldn't say I would be one of, few to make it, in college basketball or in the pros as, maybe an undersized, hooper. But I was like, I'm going to try this, this entertainment thing because, you don't see a lot of people go that route, especially young African-American men, especially growing up in North Carolina. You grow up and you're about football, basketball, or baseball.
Right.
And so I kind of swung in that direction for so long, even though I had dance and acting and theater. And
so at this point, how old are you?
17, maybe.
And at this point, are you
16?
doing like Saturday dance classes or
yeah,
tap?
man. I'm every weekend. I'm driving an hour and a half to train with the North Carolina Youth Tap Ensemble, Gene Medler, which is my mentor over there, taking dance classes locally, auditioning at this place called Finn Cannon Studios, where I was doing Coca-Cola commercials, and they had this drink in the Southeast called Cheerwine, so I was doing Cheerwine commercials.
Really?
I was doing 7-Up commercials. I was like, auditioning for Dawson's Creek.
You were
I was
doing like
all this
national
crazy
campaigns?
stuff. Yeah, man.
So you're making bank?
Yeah, for what that was, in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Oh, mate.
And so I was planning a career and being able to do that. And if I wanted to play basketball, I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll be prepared for that too. So, entertainment, I've been doing that since I was a little kid, though. Like I said, I was there by my mom's side. So, theater and community theater and stuff like that.
That was just a norm for you.
Yeah, that was a norm. Basketball was kind of like this rogue thing that, you know, my parents hadn't intended on me being obsessed with. So, you know, they're like, all right, maybe it's a phase, but then I got really good at it. So they're like, okay, well, you know, if he's serious about it, then we're going to have to make a decision. You know, you going to school for that, whatever. So I was just like, no, I'm going to go to New York. I was like, I don't even want to go to college. And they were like, whoa, wait. They're like, maybe not that. And, you know, they gave me the talk about how, you know, very few people in our family, you know, actually, you know, got the opportunity to go to college for financial reasons. So, you know, if I had an opportunity, I got some type of scholarship, you know, I should take it up. And Marymount Manhattan College on the, you know, the east side is kind of who gave me a shot. And I was really interested in going to a college where the dean and the teachers would allow me to miss to work. You know what I mean? So my dean over there was like, hey, look, I'll talk to all your teachers every semester. You hand in the work. If you do the work early, then, you know, if Debbie Allen calls or, you know, Wynton Marsalis calls or, you know, if you get a TV show or a Broadway show or a regional theater, then you can leave and I can talk to them about, you know, attendance and making sure they don't penalize you for that.
Right.
So, I mean, I went to visits with like NYU, St. John's, Adelphi University, Hofstra University, Columbia, and all that crazy stuff. And all of them were like, you can't miss class or you're failing. Wow. Period. They're like, no auditions. And Marymount was like the only school that was like, yo, you can miss whatever you want. Like, miss whatever you want.
And what was that to study?
Communication arts.
Right.
So I didn't go to school for dance or acting or anything like that because I figured I already had, you know, my thumb on that in the outside world. So I was like, once again, kind of thinking like that shark mentality. I was like, let me get something else, you know, in school because I feel like I have this taken care of on the outside world. So yeah, I got a degree in communication arts and actually helped a lot. You know, it helps me, you know, it helped a lot with meetings and negotiations and, you know, I was already a people person, but it kind of taught me the craft and the beauty of conversation, whether it's, you know, socially or from a business standpoint, or from a negotiating standpoint, or from creating, you know, projects and working with writers and stuff like that. So I was really glad that, you know, I got that communication arts degree. Nobody cares about it, but nobody cares. And my dean, when I walked across and got my diploma, he was like, man, I don't know how you did it. But I missed a lot of school.
Yeah, but people who will listen and tune into this will care because, you know, I've always been on the fence, like when you try and give advice. And I remember growing up, the advice given to me is like, I remember thinking I should get a fallback plan. And the guy I looked up to said, why do you need to get a fallback plan? You just fall back. Jump in the pool and go full out.
Yeah. But
then you kind of went full out, but with both at the same time.
Yeah, I pulled it off.
Which is even more inspiring because I'm like, wow, you did have well, in a weird way, you had a fallback plan, but this plan you were doing actually helped you, as you say, evolve as an artist.
Yeah, man.
And the business side of things, which is something we do. I don't think people get taught that, but it's important because we are our own shop front. This is the store.
It really is.
So it's not just going and performing. And we want to make sure we're taking care of him. We're taking care of. We're the CEO of this.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to do that, but you got the skills from a young age.
Yeah, well, every day is a learning experience in terms of how to expand your gift or what you're capable of. Yeah. So you know, that was just another, you know, I was just dotting my I's and crossing my T's with that one. It's like, all right, let me get that degree. Let me do that. All right, let me move on. Okay, let me try to get to, you know, regional theater. Let me try to get to producing. Let me try to get to directing. Let me try to get to Broadway. Let me try to get to TV. Let me try to get to film. And, you know, these were all the things that my idols did. You know, Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines, the Nicholas brothers, all these guys that I watched on tapes and in movies growing up, you know, they did the same thing. So all these moves that I was making, in my mind, it was my version of what they did in vaudeville to get to Hollywood, or what they did to still be talked about today in interviews like this. You know what I'm saying? In podcasts.
Wasn't that
like
amazing?
This,
when, again, talking about like kids who might ask you questions or ask me questions, the path is there.
Yeah.
You just choose who you
yourself.
want, and then almost do what they did, and then you end up finding your own identity through that.
That's, I mean, it's funny too, because when I was in high school, I didn't really think about it like that, but it was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it wasn't until I got a little bit older and I was like, oh, when you look back at the journey, you're like, man, that followed the same blueprint that I thought in my mind my idol over here followed, or what I read about them, or what I saw that they endured in a documentary. I was like, I made that the blueprint in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, that's a culmination of many great, you know, tap dancers, black tap dancers in Hollywood that paved the way for me. That's a piece of Bill Robinson, a piece of John Bubbles, a piece of the Nicholas Brothers, a piece of Sandman Sims, Sam Davis Jr., you know, Gregory Hines. Like a little piece of them is kind of like what made my journey, you know, my journey. And then I started adding my own little thing to it, like basketball. You know what I'm saying? I don't think any of them play basketball. I was like, I get to say, you know what I mean? I play basketball, you know.
Did you ever get to work with any of your icons?
Yeah, well, you know, not professionally. One of the coolest things that I ever got to do was, you know, I actually rocked with Gregory Hines, you know, a few times before he passed away. So, and that was just like impromptu type of thing too. It was like he had a class that I drove up from North Carolina for. It's like 100 kids in it. I was in the back, you know, I was feeling myself. I was he's like, I don't need to be in the front. You know what I mean? I know how to do this tap dance thing. And he picked me out of a sea of people and had me come up on stage and do the combo that he just taught. And, you know, I went at it, you know what I mean? I was like, I want to be humble, but I want him to know that I do this. Yeah. And then he ended up kind of doing it with me as a duet. And like everybody was like, ah. And I was like, man, I can't believe I just performed with Gregory Hines. And that was the first time I met him too. Never saw him before in my entire life. And then another opportunity was a showcase. And I was performing, my eyes were closed, I was in the zone. And I hear these, you know, these taps, you know, behind me. So I think it's one of the homies that's just like kind of co-signing, you know, this melody that I'm kind of rocking in the moment. And I look up and it's him. He had come out the crowd, put his tap shoes on. He remembered me from that class.
Get out of here.
And he just started kind of impromptu dancing.
Where was security?
Oh,
how did he get past security?
Gosh, I was like, what's going on? And we had a great performance that nobody had prepared for.
So he was there just watching.
Yeah. I had no idea he was there.
He just happened to have his tap shoes with him?
Man, he did. He was on the way to another performance or something like that too. So, because you know, at that point, I know, right? That's how tap dancers do. We're always loaded. He's just like, zoop, zoop. But I think he was on the way to another performance. So what he would do, you know, if he was like an announcer at a show or something like that, they would tell him to bring by his tap shoes.
Right.
And, you know, that's a big thing. Like tap dancers usually always have their shoes on them. You know what I mean? Because you never know when you're going to need them.
Wow.
It's like you got to lace them up.
So you had no idea he was even there?
I had no idea. People were like, he might come. But usually when somebody says, like, somebody of that stature might come, you don't believe it. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to rock. I don't care if he's here or not. I don't care who comes. I was like, I'm in this moment. I'm dropping bars right now. I'm trying to be the best tap dancer in the world.
And what was this show? What was this?
It was just a showcase, and it was at Broadway Dance Center, the old Broadway Dance Center, and they used to do these showcases like late at night. And sometimes the showcase would be all tap dance. Sometimes it would be hip hop. Sometimes it would be ballet or contemporary. It could be anything, musical theater. On this particular night, it was like a tap session with like New York's brightest and most fearsome up and coming tap dancers, kind of joined the showcase. And he popped in real quick before he was headed to another function, and he got on stage and rocked. And I was like, oh, snap, this is the second time I just performed with Gregory Hines, you know what I mean? And he just, out of everybody that was dancing that night, he chose to put on the shoes and get up there and rock with me. Man. So I was just like, to me, that was kind of confirmation that, like, I at least...
And do you stop
and follow,
hand it over? Do you guys just continue together?
Oh, no.
It's a jam session at this point, right?
It's a jam session, man. It's a jam session. It's like two piano players.
How long did it go on for?
Two trumpet players. In my mind, it felt like it was a lifetime. But I think it probably only lasted like maybe 4 minutes, 3 minutes, which is still
quite a bit, man.
Pretty good time, you know what I'm saying? So.
And this is where my ignorance comes in. Is there a beat going, or is there a piano playing?
Yeah, I think there was like a couple musicians there, but it was like
jamming.
It's like a jazz, rhythm section type of thing. But it was like very stripped, so it might have been like a bucket drummer. It might have been like somebody on the bongos. Like it wasn't anything super sophisticated.
And they see this happening, they just go along with it and feel it out.
Just holding the beat down, hold us down, hold the beat down, and then we was just rocking. I was just like. In my mind, too, I'm just like, I'm competitive, too. So in my mind, I'm like...
Okay, Gregory, but I'm still going to take you down.
I was like, I'm humble and I'm appreciative of the moment, but also want to try some of the things.
But he wants that, too.
And I want to show him some of the things that I've been working on and stuff like that, too. So it was just...
he wants to be inspired.
But yeah, it was just a cool moment. He was just there on the humble. He was just like, man, this is a good kid. I remember him, Wow. Then the third time I saw him was backstage at an event. And, it was so many people, I didn't think he would remember me from that moment or the first moment in his class. And my friend was like, yo, take a picture of me and Greg. And I was like, all right, cool. He was like, you want to get a picture too? I was like, no, I'm chill. I had my moments with him. I feel like, even though he might not remember me, I feel like we got a thing. And this is when I'm a freshman in college. And I took the picture, and he like brought me in and gave me a big hug. He's like, "So how you doing?" I was like, inside, it's like, he remembers me. He remembers me. But I played it cool. Like I was like, oh, I'm doing good. You know what I'm saying, like that. And then he passed away a couple months after that, which was kind of wild, man.
Oh, was that soon?
It was wild, man. It was wild. It was the oddest thing. Like when he passed away, it kind of felt like when Michael Jackson passed away from me. You know what I mean? It was like that strange, like, denial. Like I was like, no. No. And it still took a long time for, Michael Jackson's music lives on so prevalently in our world today. It's hard to even believe that he's still not here. And it's kind of like the way I feel about Gregory Hines. It's like, his imprint on who, I am as a performer and what he means to, being an all-around, virtuoso performer in Hollywood and, made it from vaudeville to Hollywood, like a lot of those guys that I said and talked about were my idols that came before him. I was just like, I've been studying that for so long, and he was the closest link for me to that. And then when he passed, I was like, all right, this really means I gotta pull my weight and see if I can do something different with it. And so, little moments like those.
What do you mean pull your weight, do something different?
Well, I like to, it's that whole evolution thing that I talked about, which is like, when you see somebody that you respect or that you idolize, you absorb what you can from them and you take it in your own direction. And, I thought he was going to be around a lot longer for me to keep absorbing, that from. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to do movies with him. I'm going to do Broadway shows with him, or I'm going to write scripts with him. Like, I thought he would be around long enough for me to be able to collaborate with him in that way, especially since it was so effortless, in a class setting. Yeah. and then in a showcase setting, and we were comfortable, in terms of using our instruments in that way. With one another. So I was just like, oh man, I was like, if I can get, my name and if I can get my status to a level where I can start doing, projects with him, that'd be, I think that's something that I could do. And then in my own way, So it'd be like introducing the changing of the guard or a new, fresh kind of take on what that type of all around performer, is in the 2000s, late 2000s until this day. But I didn't get that. And I was just like, so I was like, I gotta pull my weight. I gotta do it on my own. I gotta try to, carve this path in a way that I feel like he would be proud if he were here today. And when I really started to do that, there weren't many tap dancers or performers that were doing that. It was just about tap dancing. Yeah. And that was like the sole focus, was how you can reach the highest levels of the craft in just tap dancing. Even if you did other things, you were super hyper focused on just tap dancing and how to become, just the highest level of you within that craft. And I started out like that. And then I would say around the time that, he passed, that's when I was like, all right, cool. I got to really start to focus on some of the other things just as much as he did, just as much as my idols did. I got to focus on the singing. I got to focus on the acting. I got to study. I got to, strap on that multi-faceted brain as opposed to just that tap dancer brain. And so I just really started to study, started to take classes, started to study, people, in shows, study people in movies. Like I really became a sponge for all the things in entertainment outside of tap dance.
Right.
And what I found is that all that energy gave me creativity within tap dance too as well. And I didn't intend on that happening. So the more that I absorbed other art forms and other disciplines, the more creative I got, because in some weird way, my instrument was tuning itself based on, my conversation with Wynton Marsalis about color and notes from a trumpet, or me getting yelled at by my auntie Debbie Allen about, not understanding or not doing the homework on the scene, or a conversation with Kenny Leon about, August Wilson and how he was an August Wilson protege, or my conversations with Blair Underwood about his career, and or Jerry O'Connell about comedy and stuff like that, or David Allen Greer about comedy. Like all these guys who have kind of been my supporters, who have done amazing things and have had amazing careers. I really started to like, oh man, let me get as much from that person. They weren't tap dancers at all. The furthest thing from tap dancers. Debbie Allen, she could do anything. But there's some of those other guys that I mentioned, they're the furthest thing from tap dancers, yet they were helping me become a better tap dancer and a better artist at the same time. And I was like, all right, so maybe this is kind of like, maybe this is kind of like my thing. Maybe I'm kind of like that superhero that absorbs all these other things. He has this one superpower, but he absorbs all these other things, and he can do all these other things at a high level and save the world with all these other things. But he's passionate about saving the world with that one thing.
Right. Right.
But you never know what you're going to get. You never know how he's going to save you or how he's going to impact you. And so that's why I was like, oh, so maybe that's me. There I am. You know what I mean? So Greg was this, Sammy was this, all those other guys were that. And I was like, maybe I'm this, and so, once he passed, I really just started to, carve my lane in that direction. And man, all the way up until Funny Girl, man.
See, it's amazing. It's amazing hearing you talk like that, to even refer to yourself along the lines of a superhero, because it is a superpower to have when you think of it along those lines. And it's not from an egotistical standpoint, it's an artistic standpoint. It's knowing that you're imparting stuff when you're up there.
Yeah.
So what can you do to help people evolve?
Helping people evolve, helping people run the same type of race that you run for yourself, because it makes you happy and it's helped you achieve, some of your dreams and your goals. And to me, that was another big shift. When I got to New York and I didn't have any money and I couldn't afford, books for college, I started dancing in the subways and stuff like that, man. Because I was just like, first the subway thing. Even before I got up here, when I was coming back and forth to visit a lot of my friends, we would go down in the subway, the late 90s, you know what I mean? And we would just rock. Take a board down there, my bucket drummers, and we would just rock in the subway. And we
for
were
tips? People just throw
tips, or just literally for us, it was just for, craft, you know what I mean? I was like, all right, well, if I can rock for 8 hours in the subway, then I know I can do a 2-hour show straight. I know I can dance for 2 hours straight.
How do you not have the same toe problems I do?
Man, I got bird legs, man. These things are, when I go to the gym, I've never done legs before.
Yeah, but your toe, how do you keep, listen, I'm hobbling here after my injection. Yeah. How have you kept your, because as you say, it's a hard stage we're on now.
Yeah, I've been on worse too. I've been on worse.
You're stomping holes in that stage every night. How do you maintain your feet?
I really, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's the cross training, like, my entire life. Like, it's always, like, I used to go to dance rehearsal, theater practice after basketball practice.
Right.
Or, vice versa. Like, it's always, sport has always been a big part of my craft. And I think over the years, the cross training of, trying to dunk or, being banged around and hitting the floor because somebody that's 6'8" is, bodying you up and stuff like that. Like, that kind of cross training for me is why I've never had a leg injury or an ankle injury. The only time I've had 2 ankle injuries, and it's because playing basketball, somebody came down on my ankle. So it wasn't by me spraining my ankle, because, with tap dance, which is why I tell a lot of athletes they should take a tap class, is that it makes your ankles super strong and super flexible at the same time.
Wow, of course.
So it makes them bendy and strong, that's the best thing that you could have for your ankles. So where I might come down and like roll over on my ankle,
but it's strong. It's conditioned.
That feels like nothing to me. To where if an athlete like LeBron James does that, he's out for 3 weeks, out for 4 weeks, maybe even more. Maybe it's it's months that he's out. For me, it's just like, all right, yeah, that happens. Because in terms of the vocabulary of tap dance, I do that so often.
So what you're saying is you're stronger than LeBron James.
No, wish.
That's what I took from this.
Wish. My ankles are.
If we can get that cut as a promo for this, Jared saying he's stronger.
My ankles are stronger and flexible. If he had my ankles, he would never have an ankle injury. That's the crazy thing about it. But Kobe Bryant, said, that he actually was taking tap dance lessons with Debbie Allen and some of her assistants, Kathy Nicholas. After he had a major ankle injury. And he said once he started to do that, he felt a difference in the strength in his ankles.
Really?
Yeah, but at the time, I think he was like, I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to give anybody this advantage.
Right.
Because that's how competitive he was.
Yeah.
But I'm like here to tell people, I'm like, yo, look, the urban legend of football players taking ballet class to become lighter on their feet and stuff like that.
100% smart thing to do.
You take a tap class, it gives you the same type of, resistance to injury and the same type of lightness and footwork and speed.
That boxing champion where I think for 6 years his father made him take dance lessons before he got back in the ring.
That makes so much sense. Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all
about footwork.
That's literally why, like, my legs are, I mean, there's I feel it too. Like, you know what I mean? If I practice, you know, for 30 minutes or, you know, we do the show, I do the solo, and, you know, I just like, my legs feel like pistons. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like they're just like, they feel like rods of like steel. So I've never had any problems with my legs.
What time do you get to the theater? Because you're on the board warming up.
Have, you know, 2 minutes after half.
Oh, you get there late too? Yeah. So where, you just go to the side to kind of get your feet moving?
Yeah,
I hear you sometimes above me.
We go, oh yeah, no, like, yeah, before show, I'll be trying stuff out.
Like before you go downstairs,
I try
every
stuff
now and
out.
then I'm like,
I'm
like, oh, there it is.
I'm gonna try that move tonight. Yeah, I could, like, there's that moment in my solo where like I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, I'm gonna just try to create something that I've never done before.
I love it too because I can hear it over the tannoy, and I'm like, oh, that's different. That's a different beat.
So I'll get there like half hour and then, you know, throw on the gear and then go down either to the alley when it's warm, or we go down to the basement. And, you know, we just rock for like 15, 20 minutes. And then something from that session, I'll try to take out on stage.
Lovely. I love
you
that.
know what I mean? It's just one of those.
And I do like you. We're similar in a sense where I don't like waiting around. I don't like being in wings long. I like to bring the energy of like,
walk in and
almost
go.
like if you're almost like, oh shit, am I going to be late? And it's not to be late. It's not to mess around, but it's just this energy.
It's adrenaline.
You come and disturb the air.
It's adrenaline.
Boom.
Yeah. I hate wait. I'm not patient at all. Like, I'm not like.
No. And then I don't want to overthink the scene. All I need to do is my first step. The rest, let's see what happens.
Well, it's kind of like what I said about traveling. Like, I'm not patient enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? I might be too lazy to like travel. I wish I could like teleport. It's kind of like that. Like, I'm ready to I want to walk through the door and walk right on stage. You know what I'm saying? I want to take the energy of the city, the energy of my thoughts, you know, because your brain is probably a lot like, you know, mine as well, in terms of it's always thinking of things. It's always innovating. It's always creating. It's always, you know, unsatisfied with what it was thinking about 3 minutes ago or 2 seconds ago. So it's always generating new thoughts, new possibilities. It's always evolving. And it's like, sometimes when you can't feed that fix, you know what I mean? Like, you waste a bit of creativity, or you might forget about it. So to me, the best way to kind of keep that generating is as soon as you have that thought, to be able to act on it.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Ask for forgiveness after if it doesn't work, you know?
Yeah, if you fall in the pit, you fall in the audience, that's cool. At least you tried it, though.
Because you'll fall on your own sword.
Exactly. You'll be way worse off if you didn't try it, if you didn't get your chance to like fail. So I'm just
agree.
You got to act on that. And sometimes waiting, like, it prevents you from acting on it. So it's like.
I agree, man. So then as an artist, it's also important to quieten your mind. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Do you ever?
Nah, nonstop, man.
When you get home, you're watching TV, you're watching a game?
Watching the game, you know, even when I get a massage, 2-hour massage every Sunday after the show.
Is that a full body or is that more about your feet?
Well, I get a separate foot massage just to take care.
On that day or later in the week?
Monday, usually, I get the foot massage.
How long is
Sunday,
that on the foot?
hour and a half.
Just on your feet?
45 minutes on each foot.
Are you ticklish?
Deep tissue. No, I'm not ticklish. I'm not ticklish. My feet are just numb just from pounding nonstop.
So do you know the people you go to?
Yeah. I go to same folks every time. But like, people are like, you don't go to sleep during your massage? I'm like, no, I don't go to sleep during the massage because then I won't feel the massage.
See, that's it. I can book a 90-minute massage, 10 minutes, I'm out.
Yeah.
They could have left the room and come back a minute and say, like, we're done now. Watching something.
Like this. And as soon as you wake up, you know what I mean? But me, it's like, I gotta feel that joint. And I get the deep tissue too. So like, I have the game, like, I'll watch the game. You know, you put your head in the little circle.
Yeah.
I put like a little stand under it, and I'll like watch the game right there.
How is it there's always a game on for you? There's not that many games.
It is,
but every time I see you're watching a game, I'm like,
always
surely there's an off season.
It's always a game. And in the off season, it's all like the talk about trades and everything like that.
So you're watching that stuff?
I'm watching that, man. I'm a big basketball fanatic. So, but you know, I learned so much from that. Like, to me, basketball is an art. You know what I mean? Yeah. The plays, you know, they're like dancers. You know what I mean? The way they, you know, use their bodies and the way they take that athletic approach to the game. You think about it, the greatest basketball players are like the most graceful, elegant, articulate with, you know, physically. You know, Michael Jordan, these days John Morant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, you know what I mean? These guys are different physical specimens, all completely different. But the one thing that they have in common, the one advantage that they have over, you know, other players is that kind of grace and that the evolution of how to use their bodies in a way that maybe another player doesn't know how to. Same thing with tap dance. Like tap dance, like I can do crazy stuff, not just because my feet can do it, but I know how to put my body in the best position to be able to make 8 sounds before I come down to the floor, or to, you know, maybe do something that somebody thought was impossible. It's not just my feet. It's like, all right, well, you know, I know how to hang in the air. I know how to fly for a couple seconds. You know what I'm saying? Or I know, you know, because of, you know, jumping and trying to stay up long enough to be able to, you know, get around the trees to get a layup, you know what I mean? I know how to like kind of hunch my body or lift my frame and to suspend, you know, time for a little bit. That's where kind of basketball is kind of giving me so many advantages with tap dance, with performing in general. Even with acting too, I can draw on a whole bunch of different things for, you know, beats and rhythm and stuff like that when it comes to basketball, tap, like all that crazy stuff. It's all the same thing to me now. And that's what I was always trying to get to when I made that shift in my mind of trying to be my own version of, you know, my idols. It's like, how can I make it something different? You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, I'm not going to separate any of them. I'll make it all the same thing. When I'm hooping with the fellas, I feel like I'm dancing, or I feel like I'm doing a scene with you, or I feel like I'm singing. You know what I mean? When I'm on stage with you guys, I feel like I'm hooping. You know what I mean? I feel like it's all the same to me, and it's like a super instrument. So when you can make sound any way you want, you know?
When you're out playing now, like you play regularly?
You know what? You know, I was, and I did scare the producers.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
When I told them I was playing, because I was playing like in between shows on Saturdays. Like I would like do the matinee and I would go run and get like a couple games in and then come back and be super pumped. Like I was just hyped. The adrenaline was there. And not that I would do anything for anybody, you know, and
but
take
like you
away
said,
from my own happiness.
your injuries
but, you know
weren't because of you. It was someone else coming down on you.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, I think it was a blessing in disguise too, because the gym that, you know, me and the guys used to always meet up at, it kept getting rented out at the times that we needed to play. So the run kind of stopped. But if it was still going, I'd still be playing 2 times.
But you got to live your life too.
It's my joy.
It's not like I can look down on it. Here I'm doing a wrestling musical alongside.
Super cool though. Super cool.
Yeah, because
it's your joy too, man. If it's something you're passionate about, it makes you happy.
And it only made my work in Funny Girl re-inspired, or just kept the juices flowing. Because that's how we work. And like our minds, I don't know, listening to you, I'm like, I can relate to a lot of that. Because I always wonder sometimes, are we ever happy? Just when's enough? But it's not about that, because we're trying to evolve.
It's the constant pursuit. It's the constant pursuit. Steady moving like a shark, man. Steady moving. You got to be going forward, man. Yesterday is not enough. Yesterday will never be enough.
And I'm grateful for yesterday.
But it helps you get to
yesterday's done.
Yeah. What are you going to use from yesterday to get to tomorrow? That's kind of like, you know, that's my mentality. So it's like, you know, basketball, like if I can, next week, if they're like, yo, we got the gym, I'm like, I'm there. I'm not thinking about what anybody says. I'm not thinking about my ankles. I'm not thinking about my well-being. I'm thinking about trying to get a win. I'm trying to go win as many games as I can.
Look, any injuries I've had, I've never been in the gym, was in the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
It's actually Nicky Arnstein's kicking my ass, man. Or it could be just like a mishap, which I'm like, well, that's life.
That would happen even if you were not in a show.
Correct.
Like that was bound to happen. That was bound to be a challenge or something that, you know, the universe was trying to make you work with.
You can't live life trying not to get hurt or trying not to die. You got to live life because you want to live.
I mean, that's, you know, that I feel like a lot of people where I grew up, you know, in North Carolina, that kind of, because I kind of started to follow into that approach too until I left the nest and, you know, got to New York. It's like, you know, everything is so planned out. You got your family, you got your career, you got your house, and you pretty much just kind of do what everybody's doing. And a part of me was gonna do that, but then I was like, all right, I just got to go for it. I got to go for it. You know what I mean? Because I could have easily went to go to college to play basketball and went back to High Point, North Carolina, where I'm from, and, you know, kind of just lived out my days there and, you know, built a family and built a dance school or something like that, or some sort of career there, and just kind of, boom, I'm going to just do what I know, or do what I've known since I was 6, you know, when I moved there. But I was, you know, I had that itch. I was like, I got to go, you know, I got to try something. I got to do something dangerous. Get to New York, you know what I mean? Battle the crazy wars of the city, go on the subway, start dancing, you know what I mean? Get out of the subway, get to BB King, start doing big concerts at BB King's, start doing big concerts and shows and hosting at, Highline Ballroom, start to make a little bit of a name for yourself and gaining momentum, with the theater community and just the entertainment community in general from what you've been doing in the subways.
Wow.
And translated that to the stage and the concert venues in New York City. And then all of a sudden, you start meeting people and then that translates to, hey, do you act? Yeah. Do you sing? Yeah, dude. Then all of a sudden you're doing regional theater, and then all of a sudden you're doing TV and film, and then all of a sudden, you're playing Eddie Ryan. It's just like that stuff wouldn't happen if I was, satisfied with yesterday. Yes. Or I'd still be in the subway, rocking right now, or I'd still be, in North Carolina, coaching, a youth basketball team because, I love basketball like that. No, you got to put it to the test. Everything you're passionate about, everything you take chances on, you got to put it to the test.
So your band that I've seen online, you going to spark that up soon again?
Well, yeah. I mean, last thing we did a big concert in Mexico. But right now we're working on two different projects, and we're trying to get the rights properties to that stuff,
right? To
be able to, hopefully use my band for that particular material. That's tough.
And you sing in that, and you'll tap.
Yeah, man.
You curate the set list that you feel tells a story.
The projects that I'm talking about are more like in the musical theater space, but I want to not feel like they're kind of meta. So my band and what we do kind of works for it in a certain way. Hopefully, a press release will be coming out in a couple months.
Oh, nice, yeah.
On both of those fronts. But when I get with my band, like straight up hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, nonstop. Come up with our set list. What are we doing tonight? I could do, favorite things. I could do some Sammy tunes. I could do some Rat Pack tunes. What are we doing? And we flip the song. So we'll rehearse for like an hour. Or not an hour, we'll rehearse like day of the show.
Yeah.
And figure out what venue we're rocking at. And then we'll base it off of that, whether it's a holiday show or whatever. Mm-hmm. We'll take tunes and I'll flip them. So, it might not be what we could do supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yeah. And put a whole different spin on it. Because my musicians.
And how are you interpreting songs? With your feet or anything?
Everything.
You have a board down or you have a mic?
Yeah, so if it's on stage, we have the stage mic'd up. I'll sing the song, as a normal jazz band would do. You have the song, you have the chorus, and then you go into the solos and stuff like that. So, I'll sing. Somebody will take a solo. I'll take a solo, come back to the song.
Solo
or
with
the song might get stretched. Once you start the song, it could go in so many different directions. Mm-hmm. So I might be on supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I might be on that tune for 8 minutes. You know what I mean? And it might sound like 6 or 7 different songs before we come back to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It might sound like Singing in the Rain at one point. It might sound like My Funny Valentine at a certain point. It might sound like Favorite Things at a certain point. You know what I mean? It might go into an Afro-Cuban, feel at a certain point, and it'll always come back to Undilili Lundila.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like we love to take tunes, do something different with it, and just take that tune on a journey. We'll exhaust it in so many artistic, musical, different directions until we feel like we've gotten enough out of it, and then we'll go on to the next tune seamlessly. So I don't stop.
Great.
Like it's like 2 hours nonstop, sweat. Like I'm usually out there in the tank top. You know what I mean? I'm not out there trying to be, cute. I'm just like sweat all over the front row. I might take
How can you not?
Oh my God. I might take a 10-minute solo here. I might take a 5-minute solo here. My piano player might go off on a ballad for a little bit, but it's just like non-stop.
And it's that when you're like, thank God.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah,
Play it again.
It's funny. It's easier to keep moving. It's harder to stop. So it's like but that's what I have the subways to thank for. You know what I mean? Like being able to dance in the subway all day on concrete for different audiences who don't have the time for you. And if you can get 100 people to stop there and take you in for a little bit, that's a big deal in New York City. So if I have people come into a concert venue or to a theater to watch me rock for an hour and a half or an hour to do a set, maybe 6 songs, 7 songs or whatever like that, usually by the end of the show, I still got so much more left that I'm usually over. The next band is Jay. We gotta get you off stage. Jay, you over. You 30 minutes over. You know what I'm saying? So I got 2 songs still, bro. I still got more. So I'm like, you know what I mean? So it's. I started when I saw Greg do that too. Greg had his band, and they did it differently. You know what I mean?
But that's where you took the blueprint and made it your own.
Yeah, Sammy did it too with like Buddy Rich, back in the day, or the Rat Pack would do it. They had a band. They were a little bit more sophisticated with it. But I was like, all right, what's my version of it? I'm like, man, I go out on stage with the tank top, with the Poland, the gallon of water, Poland Springs, my book bag, tap shoes in the book bag. You know what I mean? Maybe I have 2-3 different pairs of tap shoes because they sound different on the stage or whatever like that. Mic it up, make sure the EQ, my lighting guy, I'm just like, yo, follow me, or just do some cool stuff during the show. I don't care what you do. This mood is blue, this mood is purple, this mood is orange. So just fly. Everything is impromptu.
Flicker it now and then.
Let's create. Yeah, give me a strobe if you feel like this is a strobe moment. But it's like, you know, the audience really feels like they're a part of something that's living and breathing and growing, and, you know, they feel like they're a part of, you know, the journey with me. Oh man, what? They rehearsed this morning? That's the only rehearsal they had? That's the only rehearsal they had? Oh, wait a minute. He brought somebody on stage to rock.
But brother,
like,
you've been rehearsing since 6.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why you're all that work, all that determination, all that forward movement like a shark.
Yeah, man. It's music.
Everything's built you for today, and what you do today is building you for tomorrow.
Yeah, man. It's all music at the end of the day, man. It's just how you want to play it. It's what you want to do with the tune. You know what I mean? You can make a tune sound a infinite amount of ways. Like I was just saying with the Mary Poppins tune, it's just like, man, that's one of my favorite things, is to take a piece of music or something that you feel like you know so well, and for me to bring some things to it that you may have never even thought about. You know what I'm saying? Like, can I bring your favorite, what is your favorite tune? Okay, can I take that tune and can I, you know, really change the way you think about that for the better, or in an inspiring way, or in a great way? You know what I mean? Same thing with a scene. Same thing with the solo, tap solo in a show. Maybe the same thing with, you know, how I choreograph something. You know, how can we change and grow together in that particular moment? You know what I mean? Right. So, like I was saying a little bit earlier, that was one of the shifts that I made as well, too, when I started to gain a little traction in New York. I was just like, all right, well, I need to stop making things about me. And I want to start to make stuff about, you know, giving to the people outside of me a little bit more, and see what I can get of that. Because, you know, I wanted to be the best. I was like, for the longest time since I was a little kid, I was like, I want to be better than my mom. I want to beat my dad in the driveway in basketball. Like, I was like, I wanted to beat everybody. I just wanted to be the best at everything. Even if it was like Connect 4. I mean, my pops, like, he might beat me 20 times. I was like, I would not stop until I beat him 100 to feel good about the 20 times that he beat me. Right. Same thing with ping pong. I would not let him go to sleep till I got one win. My dad was in Vietnam. Like, you know what I mean? So, you know, Vietnam, you're 18 years old. Like, you know how to play ping pong. You know what I'm saying? It was like, that's how you pass the time, you know, when you were in Vietnam. It's just like, you either thought you were going to die the next day, or you were trying to get to some type of joy. So he was playing ping pong. My dad is literally like a pro. So it took me years to beat him. I would not go to bed every night until I beat him at least once. Wow. I'm talking about he might rack me like 50 games. And in the beginning, he was probably letting me win that one time just so he can go to bed. But then I started to get him, though. I started to beat him every now and then, and I got, you know.
You know when you beat him for real, because he's like, okay, one more.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go cut the grass. You ain't win.
It's 3 in the
tired.
morning.
My arm hurt.
Chalk back.
My arm hurt. That's what it was. You know, I got this thing in my shoulder. So it's, you know, and you know, I always wanted to be the best, and I was like, well, maybe I need to change my approach a little bit, and see if I can open up a few more doors for me with, you know, what I think my blessings are, what my gifts are. And I was like, maybe I should, you know, just try to start giving. You know what I mean? Not that I was taken before, but I was just like, I was so like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need this, I need that. But I was like, man, what about what that person needs? How can I get to that? Or how can I change their song, or the perspective of their favorite song, or their favorite scene, or their favorite character? Like, you know, with Eddie Ryan being black now, you know what I mean? How can I change your perspective of what Eddie Ryan was to you before, you know, I had an opportunity to do that? Like, how can we go somewhere together? How can I give you something that you haven't been given before? And then I felt that, like, man, I changed that mentality and I made it about giving. Then I was getting, you know, so much more than I was when it was about me. When I was like,
we're there to serve the story of Funny Girl for the audience. Yeah. Because that's what they're there for. Otherwise, if they weren't there, we're not going to be there.
And it's the same thing with like a solo. It's the same thing, like, you hear me upstairs before I come down, you might hear me pounding on the floor. It's like, man, I gotta give them this particular idea because I just came up with it. So I feel like they're a part of it. We'll all be a part of it together if I can pull it off.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
Give. If I can give you everything that I've got, then I'm gonna get more out of, you know, this lifetime than I would if I'm trying to, you know, if I'm just trying to make you think that I'm good or great or talented or that I'm the best, or if I just want to get a W off of you. You know what I'm saying? It's not about that. How can we win together?
I love that feeling when you're in the long run. You know, sometimes it's like, how do you do that every day? I'm like, well, you do what you do every day. But with our thing is like, you go to a museum, you see something, a film, or you hear something, and I'm like, I'm going to use that tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that tonight. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But this is what keeps the year special, because I'm like, tonight is this.
You went for it.
Yeah.
And you went for it. Like I one of my biggest fears is not acting on an impulse. That's one of my biggest fears in life, man. Like,
that's why I love it. Sometimes you do something, and I don't know what your peers are like, but then, some of mine, they'll rip me for what I just did.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if they didn't understand it, that means I've done something different.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
but you did it.
And it could be amazing, actually, that they just don't understand.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I've seen so many people kind of operate in that way, where they act against their instincts, or they don't go with their impulse because they're hesitant of what the outcome will be. You know what I mean? And I always compare it to like the red button. As I'm like, all right, if I see a red button, I'm gonna push it. I don't care. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, but that's kind of like the 90-10 rule. Like 90% of the people of the world are not gonna push that button, but the 10% are going to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, if I see a red button, I'm pushing it. I don't care what it's about. I'm going to push it. You know what I mean? Or else I'm just always gonna wonder,
what was that? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that giving, not that has anything to do with giving, but it's also the impulse. It's the instinct. It's the not working against swimming forward. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's always seeking to breathe, always seeking to use the oxygen, around you. You can't waste it. You know what I mean? You only get one life. So that's kind of like, if you can use that oxygen to help somebody else breathe, you know what I mean? Then, like, to me, you're getting the utmost out of life. And it's funny because I was watching something, and I was watching a podcast. I was actually watching a podcast of a basketball player that I used to really like, and he quoted Einstein, and he was saying, I didn't know Einstein said this. I was just like, Einstein equals MC squared, blah, 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 blah. Like, and he was like, yo, Einstein said that if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. And I was just like, come on. Like, I mean, we've all heard a version of that.
Yeah, it's very...
But, like, I was just like, oh, man, that is so spot on, like, with, my morals and kind of where my headspace has been over the past, like, 2 decades, I would say. And that's when everything started to really change for me. All the doors that I was trying to get people to open up for me, trying in a way of saying, I deserve to be in here, instead of saying I deserve to be in here. I started knocking on those doors and being like, I got something to offer you if you're willing to, receive it, or if you're willing to be open to seeing what this perspective is. But I wasn't like, hey, I should be in here. You know what I mean? It was just like a humble, hey, look, something going on over here. You want to be down? I got something to offer. I'd love to have you. You know what I mean? And doors just started opening up. They just started opening up like crazy. And I was
Use yourself in the service of others. That is brilliant, because it is ultimately about trying to be selfless, right? Because we're not there to serve our egos. We're there to, hey man, like you said, they've asked us to come and give something. Yeah. They're receiving it, so let me give it.
Yeah, yeah.
For you, for the audience, for the show.
Oh man, it changes a lot of things, man. And I think that the more we can kind of, put that energy out in the world, like, I feel like a lot of people who take up entertainment, if they know, or if they can understand that, when they make the decision to devote their lives to it, I feel like a lot more people would be successful. You know what I'm saying? A lot more people would be successful, because I feel like we're taught from the get-go to, you have to be the best. That's the way the world and the industry kind of like conditions you. But you can be the best in a giving way. You know what I mean? You can be the best at giving, when it comes to the things that you have to offer. And that's just as good as, beating my dad in ping pong. You know what I'm saying? That's just good as that. You know what I mean? So,
brother, I could talk to you for ages, and you're someone else I would hope that you would love to come back.
Yeah, man. I'm right up the street.
Tell you what, after talking like this, I've definitely evolved.
I've definitely evolved too, my guy.
Great. This hour has gone by so quick.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm having fun. It's the first time we've
been threatening to hang out for so long.
Open jar. This is the first time we sat down and like actually got to.
Yeah. That's how fast this year's gone, though, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a wild one. It's been a wild.
But here's the problem: we keep talking about having a beer together, but both of us just want to go home to bed. Man, so how are we going to do this?
We might have a Zoom beer. We might take it back to the pandemic to have a Zoom beer.
All right, over some foot massages.
I know we got to go to a game.
All right.
Well, I mean, the season, the way the schedule is, game would have to be on Monday.
Yeah.
So if there's a playoff game on Monday,
I'll do the anthem.
We can go and do the bid in. We can put the bid in.
All right.
And make the phone calls. If we go to a game together, we're going to have a beer at the game. For sure.
I love you, brother.
Love you too, my guy.
Thanks for doing this.
We did it.
We did it.
Oh,
Jared Grimes.
Finally. Karimloo in the building.
How amazing is he?